Why nothing is everything you need. Buddhism's deepest insight. Chapter 1. What you think is real isn't solid at all. Some people are afraid that if they follow the Buddha's teachings, they'll lose everything, that they'll become distant, empty, disconnected. No joy, no goals, no identity. Just a cold silence. That fear is real, and it's very human. We all want something to hold on to, a plan, a role, a feeling of control. So the idea of nothing feels scary. But the Buddha never taught us to be empty in a dead way. He taught us to be free. That's a very different thing. And to begin to understand that freedom, we need to look deeply into something we take for granted: reality. We think the world is solid. Our body feels solid. The chair under us, the room we're in, the people we love, all feel real, lasting, dependable. But physics tells a different story. When you break matter down, what do you find? First molecules, then atoms, then subatomic particles, and then energy, movement, patterns, space. What we thought was a thing becomes space, vibrations, and relationships. So is it real? Yes, but not in the way we believed, and not solid, not fixed. The Buddha taught that everything we see as form, in Pali, rupa, is also empty. In the Heart Sutra, it says clearly, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. That's not a poetic line. It's a deep truth. What you think is a thing is also not a thing, not because it doesn't exist, but because it cannot exist alone. It cannot stand still. It cannot be pinned down. It depends on causes. It moves. It's open. It's not empty like a missing box. It's empty like the sky, spacious, full of movement, never stuck. But we don't see it that way. We believe our stories instead. This is my life. This is my house. This is my plan. These thoughts feel strong, so we hold tight. And that's when suffering begins. We don't suffer because of life. We suffer because we want life to be different from what it is. Because we believe the story, not the reality. We make everything heavy. The Buddha reminded us that nothing is really fixed. When we open our eyes to that, life becomes light again. Not weak, light, flexible, real. Like a river, like the wind, like breathing. When we see that clearly, we stop trying to hold the water in our hands. We just swim. This is the first key. What you thought was solid isn't. That's not bad news. It's not a problem to solve. It's the door to peace. When we see that everything flows, we stop fighting the river. We float. We smile. And we begin to understand what the Buddha truly meant by emptiness. Not the loss of meaning, but the return to truth. Chapter 2. Letting go is not losing. It's coming back to life. When people hear the word let go, many imagine loss. They think of giving up the things they care about: home, family, success, love. But the Buddha never taught that we must reject life. He taught that clinging creates pain. And letting go is not about walking away, it's about softening the grip. He showed us that suffering doesn't come from what we love. It comes from the fear of losing it. We try to hold on so tightly to people, plans, ideas about who we are. But the harder we hold, the more we hurt. When we let go, it doesn't mean we lose. It means we breathe again. A monk once asked the Buddha, "What is the root of suffering?" The Buddha taught, desire, but not desire for beauty or connection. It's the desire that clings, the kind that says, "This must stay. This must be mine." He taught that peace begins not when we own less, but when we grasp less. Letting go, in this light, is gentle. It's quiet. It's like unclenching a fist. You don't throw away the object. You just stop squeezing so hard. You start to feel the air again, the space around your fingers. You begin to rest. So often we confuse letting go with giving up. But they are not the same. Giving up is when we lose hope. Letting go is when we stop forcing life to be something it's not. A person who lets go is not weaker. They are stronger. Because it takes strength to live without holding everything under control. The Zen masters often speak in a strange way. When you have nothing, everything is free. At first, this sounds like a riddle. But if you look closely, it makes sense. When you don't carry the weight of ownership, fear disappears. When you don't have to keep things exactly as they are, you can breathe. You can move. You can live with kindness, not tension. The Buddha never said to run away from life. He taught us how to live with lightness. You still wake up. You still walk through your day. You still care, love, try. But you don't need the world to behave the way you imagined. You are open to what comes. And that is freedom. Some people think, if I let go, I won't be myself anymore. But the Buddha reminded us that what we think of as self is also a story, a changing flow of habits, memories, and names. When you let go, you don't lose yourself. You lose the illusion. What remains is quiet, clear, kind. Like a bird in the sky, you still fly. But now, your wings are open. You don't flap wildly. You glide. You move with the wind, not against it. And in this freedom, life returns. You start to notice the taste of food again, the sound of leaves, the smile of a stranger. You don't miss what you let go of, because now you see more. You feel more. You are here, not stuck in fear. Letting go is not the end of joy. It is where joy begins. It is not the end of love. It is where love becomes softer, wiser, deeper. And it is not the end of you. It is where you meet the part of you that was never trapped to begin with. This is what the Buddha meant when he taught us to let go. Not to become empty in a painful way, but to become open in a peaceful way. The less you carry, the more you can touch. The less you demand, the more you can receive. You don't need to throw anything away. Just loosen your grip. Just stop chasing. Just pause. That's where life comes back. Quietly, kindly, fully. Chapter 3. The mind that sees emptiness sees clearly. There's a kind of seeing that doesn't come from the eyes. It doesn't come from thinking either. It comes when the mind becomes still, like a calm lake that reflects everything just as it is. The Buddha taught that when the mind is quiet, we stop reacting and start understanding. We stop fighting what is, and we begin to see the world, not through our fears or wishes, but as it truly appears. He taught that a pure mind sees a pure world, not because the world changes, but because our way of seeing it changes. When the noise inside settles, everything outside softens. You start to notice things you never saw before, like the way wind touches the trees, or how a smile from a stranger can warm your heart for the rest of the day. These small, ordinary moments hold deep truth when the mind is clear enough to see them. This clear seeing is not imagination. It's not an idea. It's called Yathabhuta Jnanadasana, direct knowing of reality, just as it is. It means no more guessing, no more turning things into problems that aren't really there. A sound is just a sound. A thought is just a thought. You begin to feel how light everything is when you stop wrapping it up in meaning. The Buddha reminded us that emptiness is not a dark hole. It's not a blank space with nothing inside. It means that things are not fixed. They don't hold on to one shape, one label, one story. Things appear and disappear, shift and flow. They are like clouds in the sky, changing, drifting, not holding on to anything. And that's what makes them beautiful. The mistake we often make is to believe our thoughts more than our eyes. We add stories to everything. This should last. This is good. This is bad. But the mind that sees emptiness doesn't add those labels. It doesn't argue with what's happening. It just sees. It watches the coming and going without needing to control it. And when the mind sees like this, it becomes very light. There is no weight in it, no clinging, no fight. In Zen they say, real form has no form. That might sound strange, but it simply means this. When we stop looking through the filter of our ideas, what's left is just life, raw, open, moving. That is the real form, not fixed, not frozen, but fully alive. Like water that flows into any shape, but is never trapped by any of them. When you begin to understand this, everything starts to feel more peaceful. Not because problems disappear, but because you don't carry them the same way. You start to live with a soft heart. You listen more. You react less. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to protect a self that doesn't exist in the way you thought it did. And what you find in this space, this quiet seeing, is not emptiness in a sad way. It's a space filled with kindness. When your heart is not busy clinging, it opens. It becomes tender. It feels the world in a gentle way. The Buddha taught that from this emptiness, compassion naturally flows. Because when you stop holding on so tightly to me and mine, you finally have space for others. So when we talk about seeing emptiness, we're not talking about seeing nothing. We're talking about seeing clearly, without fear, without story, without control. Just this, just what is. And in that simple seeing, there is a kind of beauty that doesn't need anything more. It's already enough. That's the kind of peace the Buddha taught. A peace that doesn't depend on the outside world. A peace that doesn't fade when things change, because it comes from knowing that everything does change. And that's okay. That's life. That's freedom. Chapter 4. Nothing is missing. Everything is already here. Most people spend their lives searching. They search for meaning, for purpose, for something that will finally make them feel whole. But the more we chase, the more distant that wholeness seems. It's like drinking salty water. It doesn't quench the thirst, it makes it worse. The Buddha taught that we often look outside ourselves, believing that what we're missing is out there, in success, in relationships, in identity. But maybe the problem is not that something is missing. Maybe we're just looking in the wrong direction. When we stop chasing and simply sit with what is, something shifts. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, subtle, but it's real. We begin to sense that nothing is missing, not because we finally got everything, but because we stopped measuring our lives by what we think we need. The Buddha reminded us that dukkha, or suffering, comes from craving and clinging. And when we stop feeding those cravings, we return to a natural state of balance. It's not that we become passive or detached. It's that we begin to live with eyes wide open, seeing that the fullness of life was never about adding more, but about seeing clearly what's already here. In modern philosophy, Gilles Deleuze once wrote that reality is not a thing but a flow, a constant becoming. And in Buddhism, this is called anatta, no fixed self. We're not a static object, but a process. We are not trapped by who we were yesterday. We are always moving, always shifting. Like a river, we carry the past, but we're never the same water twice. When we understand this, we stop trying to hold ourselves together in a tight little box of identity. We stop saying, "This is who I am," and begin to ask, "What am I becoming right now?" The beauty of this teaching is that it's not abstract, it's deeply human. In everyday life, this means we can meet each moment with fresh eyes. We can forgive ourselves more easily. We can stop comparing. We can stop performing. When we are no longer trying to hold a solid identity, we can be more present, more kind, more real. And here is the most surprising part. Nothing is not empty in the way the world fears. It's not a hole. It's a space where peace can breathe, a space where joy can rise without fear of loss. The Buddha taught that when the mind is free from grasping, compassion appears naturally. It's not something you add. It's what grows when the mind is not trying to control. This is the kind of emptiness that is full, not of things, but of possibility. Like the sky, wide and open. It holds everything, but clings to nothing. That is what it means to live with sunyata, not as a theory, but as a way of being. You walk, you smile, you help others. You eat your rice without the heavy story of me and mine. And somehow, life feels lighter, more sincere, more awake. This understanding doesn't come all at once. It takes patience. It takes quiet. It takes honesty. The Buddha taught that to walk this path, we need effort, steadiness, and courage. But he also taught that freedom is not far. It is here, right now, in this moment, when we are not trying to make anything more than it is. So in the end, what do we truly find? We find that the fear of nothing was just a misunderstanding. We find that the quiet space inside us is not a void, but a source. We find that emptiness is not the end, it is the beginning. And once you see this, you are no longer afraid, not of letting go, not of change, and not even of being nothing. Because nothing is where peace begins. And from nothing, everything flows.